Welcome to Your Town. I'm Chef Wendy Brodie with Art of Food, and my guest today, us chefs couldn't be without a food photographer, but he does far more beyond just food. Patrick Tregenza Photography, or PT Photo. Anyway, and your website is ptphoto.com.
Yeah, ptphoto.com, right, if you want to check out Patrick.
Well, welcome, Patrick.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to have you, and we've worked together over the years.
We have.
I'm fascinated with all the changes in the industry, and you're a local Monterey County boy.
That's
and,
right.
How did you get inspired? How did you start all this?
I got into photography in my early 20s. I was a musician, and I had toured in a band and played 6 nights a week, and kind of realized, wow, this isn't really for me. So I figured I had to figure out what's some sort of day job. So, and photography kind of just found me. And through just, I never went to college specifically other than some community college, for photography, but I didn't go to art school or anything like that. I just assisted other photographers, and Batista Moon, Grant Huntington, Jim Pinkney, some of the local names. And of course, our big industry in this town is agriculture. And I grew up in Salinas and on the edge of a lettuce field, could hear the tractors off in the distance. And so, kind of followed in their footsteps, because their big clients were the grower shippers or the seed companies or the berry growers. Mm-hmm. And so when I went out on my own in the late 80s, that was something that I knew was going to be an important, industry. So I did some mailings, and I did work for a couple of trade magazines, ag trade magazines. I did ads in those. I would go to the agricultural trade shows like the Produce Marketing Association, which is one of the bigger trade shows, and just meet people in the industry. Of course, it helped that I also went to Salinas High and was actually in high school with the Antles and the Taylors and some of the people that ended up being CEOs of these big companies. So those connections came in handy from time to time. So. And we're still doing, I have a studio in downtown Monterey with a full kitchen, so that we can do recipe development. My wife is a food stylist.
We're going to get her on next.
Yeah, so she's actually up in Oakland today making pizzas for packaging, I think for Safeway, I'm not sure for what brand. So she's a food stylist, and that's how we met, was through work. And so we've kind of in the last 15 years or so kind of become this team that ag companies can say, we've got, this new line of packaged salads, and we need a shot for the front of the bag, or one of our clients is Sweet Earth Foods that do the seitan, and they have all these products like the frozen burritos, and we do all their packaging shots that end up on the front cover of the package.
You're a one-stop shopping there.
Well, it's nice that we have the ability to, we live and work about 6 blocks, from our studio as our house, and so we can walk to work, and it's just, we live in paradise, so life is good for us.
That's wonderful. And I forgot to ask you, what musical instrument is your thing?
I am a drummer.
Drummer.
Yeah.
Drummer.
I started drumming at age 8.
Yes.
Yeah, I still to this day play drums, and I have a group called Along Came Betty, and we just played about a year ago the Jazz Festival for our 5th time, Monterey Jazz Festival.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks.
That's fabulous.
Yeah. I'm really proud of that, and the band's been around for now 20 years, so. And that's pretty much where all my musical energy goes. I don't do a lot of other gigs on the side, but I do stay active with that group, Along Came Betty.
So your early instincts did stay with you. That's very nice.
Yeah, and a lot of people say, what do you take pictures of for fun? And I usually say, well, I really don't take pictures for fun. That's my day job. I mean, for my creative outlet or to have fun, I play jazz. I mean, that's what I really enjoy doing still, is that creative outlet of actually playing jazz and the improvisation of it and all that. So Yeah.
Well, you all are very creative in your own field, and having worked with you, you're just so good at what the camera will see versus what I'm putting on a plate and think it will look good. And of course, not that your wife doesn't refine that element, but the industry has changed. We grew up in the area that if you were a photographer, your dream was to have your own darkroom, but maybe you can expand on how your career path has changed and been.
You know, my career path, and you're talking about the transition from
technology,
from
yes.
film to digital. My career path hasn't really changed, but my workflow has changed tremendously. And you remember the days when we used to have to shoot a Polaroid and wait 3 minutes, and you'd stick it under your arm to keep it warm, and you'd peel it, and then you'd look at it, and everybody would gather around. And I used to have this big magnifying glass that we'd look at every little, nook and cranny, and then we would make, 3 or 4 or 5 changes, and then we'd shoot another Polaroid. And then when we, after an hour of that, the food's starting to kind of go, and then we said, okay, we've got to shoot it now. So we would then shoot film, and then we would be done. But now the image immediately shows up on the computer, big, the exposure's perfect, the lighting's perfect, it's in focus. And so then what that's given us is more flexibility. It still takes a lot of time to build the food and to, prepare the food. But when we finish this shot, we say, okay, that's the shot, that's the finished shot. Now, can we do it without the chopsticks? Or can we add a fork instead of that? Or we put a glass of water or wine or something? And so there's all these variations that we can do. And all it takes is just a click on the keyboard, and boom, the lights go off, the camera takes a picture, it shows it back on the computer. And so we can do 10 or 12 variations of each shot that there was no way we could do that before, it just wouldn't last. And we can also do different crops, like horizontal or vertical for the different social media, like Facebook likes the vertical, and websites like skinny horizontal. So we can come in tight. We can pull back and leave more room, so if they want to use it for a trade show display or something, they'll have room for type or a headline on it. So it's just given us a lot more flexibility. And not only just with the variations of the shots, but also it's much more forgiving, digital is, than it used to be. I mean, you used to have to really have the color temperature of every light you use had to be exactly the same. So it was much more technical. And I think that background was a really good, grounding base for me in that maybe the kids coming up through college now don't get so much. I mean, I'm sure kids still have to take basic photography, black and white 101. They have to learn how to develop their own film and make prints from it. But I mean, having that professionally, having done that for a decade or so, really helped ground me and in my practice, and it kind of becomes muscle memory. I can walk into a situation and go, okay, I'm gonna have one light here, 2 lights over there. This is what the power settings are going to be, and usually I'm within a half a stop, just from years and years of doing it. So.
Oh. Well, I remember too when I had to have the dummy plate.
Right, the stand-in.
The stand-in,
and then the hero would come out.
Okay.
Right, that's
I didn't know what the terminology.
Right, yeah,
was,
and we still do the same thing. Like I say, I'm gonna have a plate this size. Sometimes we'll have 2 of the same plate, which is great because then I can have the same exact plate that we're going to use with just a handful of lettuce on it, just as a stand-in, and build the lighting and build the props and the fork and the napkin and the glasses and whatever else is going to be in the shot, while the food stylist is in the kitchen building the perfect salad, which may take a half an hour or 45 minutes. Mm-hmm. And then it comes out, it gets replaced, and then there it is, and then we take a shot and we say, okay, this doesn't work, these 3 garbanzo beans are lining up in a row or whatever, and then we make the changes, and then we're done and we go have lunch.
Fabulous. I remember one time in LA when I was doing a photo shoot, we had a sorbet tureen that was all different colors, mm-hmm. and it was with the digital application, and it was beginning to melt a little bit, and all of a sudden they were just able to erase it. and it was with edible gold, so we had some glasses, like a martini glass that
Sure.
was rimmed with gold. And they were just able to move the gold around the rim. I mean, it was like Harry Potter magic. It was incredible.
Yeah, I mean, we have that as another tool in our toolbox, is the ability to do this, Photoshop work, basically, of retouching stuff. So, and, we've been using that even before we had digital cameras, because you would shoot film and then the film would get digitally scanned, and then you would have a TIFF or a JPEG, so you could go in and do the retouching. And what I learned, I think I took the first, I think it was Photoshop 2 back in like 1993, and it was very, preliminary, but it was like, I want to learn what's possible in Photoshop, what's easy and what's hard, because there's some stuff that's like, you can't, if you have to cut somebody's hair out, it's almost impossible, because there's just, but if you have a mole, that's just a clone. You just clone the mole. That's easy. So I had to learn those tricks with food. So if I had a tomato that was a perfect shape, but it had 3 black spots, I was like, the 3 black spots are nothing. If the shape had a weird shape to it, that is hard to contour. Or a strawberry, shape is most important. So when we're doing like strawberries, we say the shape is the most important thing. What the surface looks like isn't as critical as that shape, because that's really hard to kind of expand and contract, if it's not exactly symmetrical or something like that. So we still strive to not have to do a lot of retouching. Our goal is to make it as good as we can and not have to go in and fix it later. Some stuff, we do because it's just like, it's gone. It's, we still can go back and fix it, and we can do that and save a shot or whatever. But for the most part, even with ice cream, we try to move fast and catch it before it melts. Or sometimes we'll even say, okay, we've got it. Now we want it to just melt a little bit, to look a little more natural. And sometimes the food stylist will actually take a straw and just with her breath blow on it, and just the warmth of her breath will make like spots of it drip, more than others. And so we like, I want to drip right there. So she'll blow on that one spot, and it'll just go drip right down the glass or whatever. And then we'll do, a shot of that. And then we'll have maybe 10 different variations of the ice cream with different drips, here and there and there. So
now, once upon a time when I worked with the food stylist, they were using, I can't remember whether it was lard to replace ice cream.
Yeah.
Is that
you can? Yeah, we make fake ice cream sometimes. If we're, let's say if you were doing an ice cream cone packaging shot. What's in the cone doesn't really matter. It doesn't have to be ice cream. It can be anything, but it has to look like ice cream. So I think what my wife has been using lately is instant mashed potatoes. And you can dye that, and it looks, you scoop it, and it has that perfect scooped, kind of edge to it. And she's also used,
rough, like it comes right out
that looks frozen.
Ice cream
she's also used cake frosting. And shortening or Crisco, and you can add color to that. But I think because Crisco is oil-based and the potatoes are water-based, the potatoes are easier to add food coloring to, because it will mix where they won't mix with dye. So there's all. I was just showing, or thinking about a shot of because people think that they spray everything. They don't, for the most part. Most part it's pretty clean, but there are some tricks, like if we're doing pancakes or waffles, and there's going to be syrup. If she sprays the pancake or the waffle with Scotchgard, that waterproofs the pancake so that the syrup doesn't soak in, and the syrup will stay up on top longer that way. And so that's one of those.
So you really have to be a food chemist.
There's a lot of chemistry, and most food stylists have, they know the difference between acids and this. Well, if you have a purple cabbage and you want it to stay purple, you might have to add acid to it to keep the color. Or avocados. I think one of the tricks we learned recently was we always use lemon juice on avocados, but the Avocado Advisory Board said the best thing is citrus vodka, because it's got acid and the alcohol. What's that?
Sprite. Sprite, and it keeps the apples and the avocados. The lemon
from turning brown.
Almost was ate in. It
Maybe
made it mushy.
Like cooking it too much. Too much acid. Right. That's a good one. We'll have to try Sprite.
And you only need the little cans, and it works perfectly for fruit.
One.
Yeah. Trends. Are there, like in the magazines, we'd always see the plate with the glass and the knife and fork. What kinds of, where is the industry, or what are new good looks without that set image?
It seems like there's a lot more straight overhead shots now, and I know like Bon Appetit almost always had a straight overhead shot of a plate, and it was very photojournalistic. But so you see a lot of that now. I like it sometimes. You have a little more flexibility because you can use it as a vertical or a horizontal. I tend to like the 45-degree angle because when you sit down in a chair at a table to eat, that's what you see of the plate, is that, like, you know, looking down at about a 45-degree angle. A low angle is kind of cool if you've got some architecture to the piece, if it's a dessert that has, you know, tuile that's stacked or something like that, or it's a poke stack or something like that. So you want to get low to show that verticality of it. But I always think that just, you know, as humans, we sit down to a meal to eat and we're looking at it, you know, at a 45-degree angle. That's usually the most appetizing. So that's kind of what I do. And then there's, you know, the different props, you know, instead of, you know, back in the day, it was like a perfectly, you know, waxed wooden table and a perfectly ironed napkin, and now it's a beat up piece of barn wood or a beat up piece of galvanized rusted metal with dirt and paint chips, and instead of perfectly ironed napkins, you might have stuff that's kind of crinkled and folded. In fact, we at one point washed a bunch of our kind of rougher linen napkins, and instead of ironing them, just let them dry, and they have this kind of wrinkled texture, and that I think adds something to it, a little more of a farmhousey kind of feel to it. So I'm always looking, you know, at what's out there and what's changing trend-wise with how, you know, food is photographed.
Well, one of the other things, having just seen you recently again after a while, I just couldn't get over how marvelous you looked. And
Thank you.
You said you've been exploring some new diets and all sorts of things. In a minute, do you want to sum up what your life is like now?
Sure. I mean, I'm 57, and I have a 12-year-old. So it was like, you know, I got to take care of myself. So I just out of the blue tried on vegetarianism because it was just one of those things. I think I'd heard on NPR that it was Lent, and I thought, oh yeah, Lent, you know, it's like 40 days. This is going to go 40 days without, you know, meat. I could still have a piece of fish here and there, but, you know, nothing with 4 legs, or 2 legs, I should say, or any legs. But, and that went really easily for me. So then I kind of went semi-vegan. And then a yoga studio went next door to my photo studio, so I started doing yoga more. And then I just kind of started thinking about, you know, my life, and I've been doing this a long time, and, you know, what's it all about, and the spirituality. And so just, you know, I'm kind of going through a bit of a transition right now, and I'm as healthy as I've ever been. I swim probably 4 days a week, and I do yoga. My diet's really pretty impeccable. I just finished this book called The Plant Paradox, I think I was talking to Tom about, and so I'm not buying into it 100%, but, you know, it's making a little bit of sense. So yeah, I'm just, you know, kind of at a phase where, you know, I quit drinking alcohol about a year ago, and that was a good thing for me at the time. So yeah, I'm just enjoying life and trying to live each day as if it were, you know, not the last day, but the best day of my life. Let's say that.
That's a beautiful ending, and you do such beautiful work. Thank you so much
Thank you,
for
Wendy.
coming on.
Great, it was my pleasure.